There's only two relationships that resemble each other. The one you have with your parents or the people who raise you, and the one you have with the people you fall in love with. People can sit in my office all the time and say, I have this with no one else. I don't have this with anybody at work. Nobody among my friends ever thinks like that. You're the only one who speaks like this or thinks this about me or with whom I do this. No. You're the only one, and now we go back in history. And I'm sorry to be the psychologist, but that's really,
right.
It is the place where we often learned about closeness, trust, loyalty, commitment, sharing, taking, receiving, asking, all these essential verbs of relationships. We learned that at home.
We also learned jealousy and all these other
Possessiveness,
things.
vengeance,
Yes.
you name them. The beauty
Anger.
and the not beauty.
Yeah, we saw it all as children, right? We saw the fights, we saw the love, we saw the,
We saw the coldness.
the lack of intimacy, the
whole
intimacy,
thing.
yes.
Yes. And we bring that with us. And we often promise ourselves, I'll never be this one. I'll never be this way. I'll never talk like this. I'll, and we find ourselves often much
Doing it,
closer
right?
to the apple.
And then resenting
Apple
ourselves.
to the tree.
We resent ourselves. We're like, how did we do that? Well, why did we
Yes.
get to this place?
And then we feel ashamed about it. And since we don't like to feel ashamed about it, we hide it. And one of the way we hide it is we blame the partner. That's just one of the ways. There's a load. We are very resourceful in not owning our shit.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Wow, okay. And where does sex play into all this and desire?
So, I mean, one of the fascinating things for me in looking at sexuality is that it's probably one of the dimensions of relationship that has changed the most in a very, very short amount of time. For most of history, and in still the majority of the world, sex is for procreation. Sex is a marital duty on the part of the woman. Nobody cares particularly if she likes it and how she feels and if she wants it. And men have the privilege to go and find sex elsewhere.
Wow.
In a very short amount of time, we're talking 60 years, we have contraception, which is the liberation of women for the first time to free sex from reproduction, from mortality, from death in pregnancy and in childbirth, all of that. And for the first time, sexuality moves from just biology and a condition to a part of our identity and a lifestyle.
In 60 years.
In 60 years. The women's movement, which goes after the abuses of power. The gay movement, which introduces the concept of identity to sexuality. The fact that sex is for connection and pleasure. The fact that for the first time we have sex before marriage. And many times, a lot. We used to marry and have sex for the first time. Now we marry and we stop having sex with others. Okay?
Right.
Monogamy used to be one person for life. Now monogamy is one person at a time. And people go around telling you, I'm monogamous in all my relationships. And it makes perfect sense to them. Okay?
Sure.
All of that in a very short amount of time. The fact that I choose you to marry or to live together, doesn't matter, commitment, because I'm attracted to you. Because you give me butterflies in my stomach. And the fact that I think that if I don't have these butterflies anymore, maybe I don't love you anymore. And the fact that sexuality in long-term relationships is rooted in one thing only, desire. I feel like it. I want to. Not I have to. Not we want many kids. After 2 kids, the only reason to continue doing it with you is because we feel like it.
Right, it's
and
fun.
hopefully
It's pleasurable.
pleasurable. We connect. It feels good. It rounds up
Deepens
the
our
edge, the
relationships,
whole
yeah.
thing. That's it. And hopefully it's at the same time and for each other. Because plenty of desire continues, but it's not always at home.
Right, exactly.
So this is an amazing revolution. Sex that
It's
is
confusing
rooted
all of us.
and how do we sustain it? So that's
Yes.
why I became fascinated in the nature of erotic desire and how do we sustain desire, because it is the first time ever that we have a grand experiment of the humankind where we want sex with one person in the long haul that is fun and connected and intimate and playful, and we live twice as long. Go figure.
Right, exactly. For 60 years, you're going to be with them or whatever it is.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's an amazing ideal.
So how do we navigate this? If we're going to choose one partner and be with them until, we're both gone, how do we navigate the challenge of keeping the desire continuously?
I think
Both
first,
men and women.
yes.
Because the woman probably sees other men who are attracted to her and, vice versa. So it's like, how do both parties do this?
Look, we know that women get bored with monogamy much sooner than men.
Wow. Is this a
Okay?
fact or is this
That's
a...
research.
Okay.
That's not just fact. That is men's desire in long-term relationship goes down gradually. He actually is much more able to remain interested, and maybe just because he's interested in the experience itself and he has a partner there. Women's desire post-marriage
Really?
plummets.
Wow.
And it's always been translated as, well, that's because women care less about sex, rather than it's because women care less about the sex that they can have in their committed relationships, which is often not interesting enough for them. And it often has to do with the fact that the story, the character, the plot is not it's not seductive. The romance, which is an essential ingredient of turn on for the woman, often disappears in the long-term relationship. It's like people look at each other at the end of the day and you want to fool around? You want to do it? You're up for it tonight? Now, this is not very much of a turn on for
No.
most women. And the idea that foreplay often starts at the end of the previous orgasm, and not 5 minutes before the real thing,
Right.
which for her is not the real thing. The real thing is everything else.
So it's
around
essentially the
it.
game.
Yes.
Of a
Yes.
It's creating a
It's
game.
seduction. It's
Yes.
a plot. It's a coming close. It's a tease.
Mystery.
It's what animals call pacing. It's that I come to you, but I don't overwhelm you. I come just a little bit so that you can come a little bit toward me. And then I don't immediately answer. I actually go back a little bit too. Have you ever seen animals? They do this kind
Yeah.
of pacing. And it is an essential playful ingredient of seduction and excitement. So women's desire plummets. But we interpret it as women are less interested in sex, rather than women are interested in probably just about the same kind of things that many men are. But women have always known what to choose above what turns them on, which was what gives them stability and security
Safety,
in their life.
security, family,
Right.
someone to protect, be there, right?
So what people do, look, we want one partner today to give us everything that involves stability and security and everything that involves playfulness and mystery. Okay, that's the grand ideal. Okay, I want to be cozy with you and I want to have an edge and I want you to surprise me and I want you to be familiar and I want you to give me continuity and I want you to give me novelty. That's it. As if it's a, right? And no Victoria's Secret is going to solve that.
Yeah.
Right? So then there becomes, what is desire? Desire is to own the wanting. If you ask people a question that goes like this, I turn myself off when? I turn myself off by. Not you turn me off when, and what turns me off is. You're going to hear I turn myself off when I do emails, when I spend too much time on the phone, when I overeat, when I don't exercise, when I have bad days at work, when I don't feel confident, when I numb myself, when I feel dead, when I don't feel thriving, when I'm not alive. You will really hear that it has very little to do with sex. And when you ask people, I turn myself on when or by, I awaken my desires. Not you turn me on when, and what turns me on is, which is, i.e., you're responsible for my
Right.
wanting.
Right.
What people will talk to you about is when I'm in nature, when I'm connected with my friends, when I get to do my sports, when I play music, when I listen to music. It's stuff that gives me pleasure, that is alive, that is vibrant, that is vital, that is erotic in the full sense of the word as life force.
Right.
And from that place, people remain interested in having sex with somebody else for the long haul.